Hey everyone, 99% of you watching aren't subscribed. Let's change that. Hit that subscribe button, and at 1,000 subscribers, we'll drop special stories just for you.
The first thing the aliens did when they arrived was measure everything. They did not announce themselves with lights in the sky or thunder over cities. The Varelian Expeditionary Fleet prefer precision over spectacle. Their vessel, the Radiant Inquiry, settled into high orbit like a silent second moon, its hull bending light into near invisibility. From there, they began to evaluate the planet. Atmospheric composition, nitrogen-oxygen dominant, trace pollutants within survivable margins. Hydrosphere, abundant, chemically active, turbulent. Tectonic activity, persistent, energetic, unnecessarily violent. Then they measure gravity. They measured it 3 times. Recalibrate. Click Senior Analyst Threx. His voice a rapid series of harmonic pulses translated into smooth tones by the ship systems. His cranial crest angled sharply forward, a sign of intellectual irritation. Your instruments are clearly compromised. Technician Sava did not look up from her console. Her frilled mantle flickered in faint indigo, the Varelian color of professional offense. They are not compromised, she replied. We have cross-referenced orbital decay, atmospheric compression gradients, and tidal stress patterns. The gravitational constant is accurate. A hush spread across the command chamber. Even through their adaptive exosuits, the Varelians appeared impossibly tall and delicate, long-limbed, narrow-waisted, their semi-translucent skin faintly luminous beneath the chamber's refracted lighting. They were a species shaped by gentler physics. State the figure again, Captain Axer said from the elevated command dais. Sava's fingers danced across the projection field. The number stabilized in cold blue light, 9.8 meters per second squared. The chamber erupted in sharp, overlapping clicks. Varelian laughter. Impossible, muttered navigation specialist Ureth. No complex biological system could endure such sustained compression. Correction, Threx said dryly. No efficient biological system. Captain Axer rose to his full height, nearly brushing the upper arc of the chamber's gravity-stabilized dome. His crest unfurled slightly, a sign of amused authority. Our homeworld, Leharis, maintains 3.1 meters per second squared, he said. Under that constant, we achieved orbital infrastructure before combustion engines. We cultivated art forms in freefall galleries. We grew cities that breathe. A projection bloomed behind him. Leharis, soft violet seas, floating terraces, towers that curved upward like petals suspended in air. Bridges arched impossibly thin between spires, their structural loads minimal under the planet's forgiving pull. Civilization flourishes under refinement, Axer continued. Not oppression. The image shifted. Earth, dense cloud systems churned over deep blue oceans. Continents sprawled with jagged mountain ranges and sprawling urban clusters. Storm systems coiled with visible violence. Observe their architecture, Threx noted. Low, reinforced, excessively thick support structures. Ground-bound, Ureth added. They build downward, Sava said softly. Anchored. Axer studied the data feeds, streaming across the chamber. Life here evolved under constant strain, he mused. Every movement requires elevated energy expenditure. Inefficient. Threx magnified a series of biological scans. Bone density averages 1.8 to 2.0 grams per cubic centimeter, he reported. Cortical thickness unusually high. Musculature compact and layered. Compensatory adaptation, Ureth concluded, to avoid collapse. Sava hesitated. There is more. She expanded a live feed capture intercepted from a human communication satellite. The chamber lights dimmed as a video filled the projection field. A rectangular interior space, bright metallic, cluttered with equipment. Humans moved within it. One in particular stood at the center. He was shorter than any Varelian present, broad across the shoulders, thick through the torso. His limbs were dense, proportions compressed compared to Varelian elegance. A metal bar rested before him, loaded at both ends with circular weighted plates. What is the mass? Axer asked. 200 kilograms, Sava replied. The chamber exploded in sharper laughter. That must be mechanical assistance, Ureth said. No assistance detected. The human bent at the hips, grasped the bar, and inhaled. Muscles tightened beneath his skin, visible tension lines mapping across arms, back, and legs. Then he stood. The bar rose with him. Cleanly, controlled, he locked his posture upright, stabilizing the weight without external support. The laughter faltered. Threx leaned forward. Is the recording altered? It is authenticated, Sava said. Biometric readings confirm elevated strain, but no technological augmentation. The human lowered the weight back to the floor with deliberate care. Around him, other humans nodded in approval. Ritual display behavior. Threx concluded quickly. Primitive demonstration of dominance. Or courtship, Ureth suggested. Or internal hierarchy reinforcement, Axer said. Regardless, it is symbolic. Such force application cannot be common. Sava hesitated again. Additional data indicates widespread participation in similar activities, she said. Recreational resistance training is popular. The Varelians exchange glances. They willingly increase gravitational strain. Ureth asked, Yes. Why? Sava paused. They state it makes them stronger. Silence. Axer's crest tilted in faint amusement. They're already under crushing planetary force, and they seek more, he said. Fascinating. Threx straightened. Gravity-bound organisms often develop exaggerated coping behaviors. It is likely psychological. Axer considered the projection again. The human's muscles had not appeared inefficient. They had looked coiled, purposeful. Still, prepare first contact protocols, the captain ordered. Maintain orbital superiority. We will engage cautiously. He turned toward the chamber's panoramic display of Earth below. Cloud systems drifted over continents thick with life. Lightning flickered inside storm columns that stretched miles high. Oceans surged against shorelines with relentless rhythm. Everything on the planet moved with weight. Even the trees, dense trunks braced against the wind, seemed built for resistance. Such a world, Ureth murmured. Every organism pressed downward from birth. And yet, Sava said quietly, eyes still on the paused image of the human holding 200 kilograms aloft. They stand. Threx gave a dismissive flick of his mantle. They stand because they must. Nothing more. Axer allowed himself one final ripple of laughter. Let us hope, he said lightly, that their technological sophistication exceeds their reliance on brute adaptation. Below them, in cities and villages and mountains and coastlines, humanity continued unaware. People walked, carried groceries, climbed stairs, hauled equipment, lifted children, worked under a force they never questioned. For them, gravity was not oppression. It was simply life. And far above, in a vessel built for lighter skies, an advanced civilization misread density for limitation and laughed at Earth's muscles. The landing site had once been an aircraft assembly hangar. Now it was a first contact zone. Reinforced steel beams arched overhead. The concrete floor had been stress-tested twice in the past 48 hours, once for alien mass estimates, and once because a nervous engineer had quietly asked, "What if they're heavier than they look?" They weren't. That discovery came moments after the Varelian shuttle descended. It did not roar. It did not blaze. It folded into visibility as though reality itself had thinned to let it pass. The craft settled lightly, too lightly, onto the hangar floor, its landing struts barely compressing. A ripple moved through the gathered humans. Scientists, military personnel, linguists, engineers. A few politicians standing stiffly in tailored suits. Cameras rolled from behind layered security glass. The shuttle opened like a blooming petal, and the Varelians stepped out. They were taller than expected, graceful, elongated limbs encased in sleek, opalescent exosuits that shimmered faintly with internal light. Their movements were fluid, almost drifting despite the full pull of Earth's gravity. A murmur ran through the human observers. "They're floating," someone whispered. They weren't. Not exactly. But their suits compensated subtly, micro-adjustments humming at frequencies just below human hearing. At the forefront stood Captain Axer. Dr. Elena Marquez stepped forward to meet him. She was not physically imposing. 5'6", dark hair pulled into a tight bun. Lab coat traded for a reinforced diplomatic jacket with a small UN insignia at the collar. She looked up at the alien captain without flinching. "Welcome to Earth," she said. Axer inclined his crested head. "We are the Virelian Expeditionary Fleet. We come in peace and in curiosity." The translation field shimmered faintly between them, converting harmonic clicks into smooth, modulated English. Elena nodded. "We appreciate the courtesy of not arriving with a planet killer." A faint pause. "Your defensive satellites are primitive," Axer replied calmly, but noted. A nervous cough escaped one of the politicians. Elena ignored it. Behind Axer, senior analyst Threx observed everything. His gaze lingered not on the weapons or the architecture, but on the humans themselves. Compact frames, thick joints, dense posture. Even standing still, they looked braced. "Your gravitational constant is extreme," Threx said abruptly. Elena blinked. "We're big fans of it." Axer's crest shifted, mild confusion. "It exerts nearly triple the force of our homeworld," he said. "Evolution under such conditions must severely restrict biological performance." A subtle stiffness crept into the line of soldiers standing several meters behind Elena. She smiled politely. "Restrict how?" "Locomotion efficiency, structural elegance, energy conservation," Threx replied. "Your architecture compensates for collapse risk. Your machinery compensates for limited lifting capacity." One of the engineers muttered, "Oh, you've got to be kidding me." Elena held up a calming hand without turning. "We use machines because we like efficiency," she said evenly, "not because we can't lift things." Axer tilted his head. "Your data networks display numerous examples of heavy machinery performing mass displacement tasks," he said. "Cranes, hydraulic systems, cargo transports." "Yes," Elena replied. "They're faster than people." "Then your biological systems are insufficient for large-scale physical exertion," Threx concluded. The air changed. It wasn't hostility. Not yet, but the humans straightened slightly, like steel cables drawing taut. Elena glanced over her shoulder. "Sergeant Okoye," she called. A man stepped forward from the military line. Sergeant Malik Okoye was built like a bridge support, broad to the chest, thick through the arms, posture balanced and grounded. His uniform sleeves strained faintly at the seams. He moved with casual confidence, boots thudding softly against the concrete. He stopped beside Elena. "Yes, ma'am." She gestured subtly toward the Virelian captain. "The captain believes we're structurally limited." Malik's eyebrows lifted. "Oh." Axer regarded him with analytical calm. "You are military," the captain observed. "Enhanced conditioning likely." Malik shrugged. "I work out." Threx consulted a wrist projection. "Your skeletal density exceeds your species median by 12%. Muscle mass above average." "Cool," Malik said. He looked at Axer directly. "What's your weight, Captain?" The translator hesitated only a fraction of a second. Axer's crest flared in mild offense. "I weigh 180 of your kilograms," he replied. "My exosuit distributes gravitational stress." Malik nodded thoughtfully. "All right." Before Elena could issue a disclaimer, and before the Virelian guards fully processed a shift in the center of mass, Malik stepped forward. His boots planted shoulder-width apart. He crouched smoothly. One arm slid behind Axer's elongated lower frame. The other secured across the upper torso, mindful of the exosuit's structural seams. There was no roar, no dramatic strain, just a controlled inhale. And then he stood. Captain Axer rose off the ground. The exosuit stabilizers whined in sudden recalibration. Internal gyros flickered uselessly, confused by unexpected external force vectors. Gasps echoed through the hangar. The Virelian guards froze, not from incapacity, but from shock. Malik adjusted his grip slightly, compensating for Axer's higher center mass. "You're actually pretty light," he said conversationally. Axer's translation field crackled. This is gravitationally inadvisable. Malik grinned faintly. Feels normal to me. He held the captain there for 3 full seconds. Not shaking, not trembling. Then he lowered him carefully back to the concrete floor, ensuring the alien's feet were stable before releasing. Silence flooded the hangar. Every human present had gone still. Every Varelian stared. Threx's projection screens flickered wildly as biometric readings spiked. Muscle fiber contraction output. Impossible, he muttered. Sava's voice came through the comm channel from orbit, breathless with disbelief. Captain, our sensors confirm no mechanical augmentation. Purely biological force generation. Axer remained motionless for a long moment. He looked down at the floor, then at his own hands, then at the human who had just lifted him as if he were equipment. You exerted 1,760 newtons of upward force, Threx said faintly. Malik scratched the back of his neck. Is that good? It is, Sava whispered over the channel. Exceptional. Elena folded her arms. We don't usually go around picking up visiting dignitaries, she said calmly. But since you were evaluating structural limits, Axer slowly straightened his crests. This is not representative, he said automatically. Malik tilted his head. You want to try one of the bigger guys? A ripple of restrained laughter moved through the human line. The Varelians did not join in, because for the first time since entering Earth's orbit, they were recalculating. Not atmospheric chemistry, not tectonic volatility, but muscle, bone, force, and the uncomfortable realization that a species forged under constant gravitational pressure might not be biologically constrained, but biologically reinforced. Axer turned to Elena, his voice quieter now. Your gravity has not weakened you. Elena's eyes held steady. No, she said. It's trained us. Behind them, Earth's pull remained constant, unforgiving, relentless. The footage spread across Earth in less than 6 hours. It began as a classified military recording. It became a leak. It ended as a most viewed video in human history. Alien captain lifted by human soldier. Earth gravity, 1, aliens, 0. Malik hated the captions. He especially hated the slow motion edits. Up in orbit, aboard the Radiant Inquiry. The Varelians did not understand memes, but they understood data. And the data was unsettling. Rerun the biomechanical model. Threx ordered for the 4th time. It has not changed, Sava replied, her voice carrying a thin thread of strain. Human skeletal reinforcement patterns indicate lifelong adaptive stress. Microfracture remodeling increases density over time. Muscular hypertrophy is common across the population. Across the population? Threx repeated. Yes. She projected thousands of data points. Construction workers carrying equipment up scaffolding. Firefighters hauling unconscious civilians through smoke. Athletes flipping tractor tires for recreation. Warehouse employees moving cargo manually when machinery failed. Parents lifting children, groceries, furniture, each day without ceremony. Baseline human strength, Sava continued, is not exceptional relative to their own species. It is exceptional relative to ours. Captain Axer stood near the observation pane, staring down at the planet below. From orbit, Earth did not look heavy. It looked alive. Cloud systems spiraled in slow majesty. Lightning flickered in distant storms. Oceans heaved against continents that refused to sink. But Axer could feel it now, even through the artificial gravity of the ship. The memory of being lifted, not violently, not arrogantly, effortlessly. I experienced no instability in his stance, Axer said quietly. No tremor, no panic. His heart rate increased by only 30%, Sava confirmed, within optimal exertion range. Threx turned away from the projection, mantle dimming. We miscalculated, he admitted. On Let Horus, physical strain was rare. Their cities floated because they could. Their materials were grown for flexibility, not compression. Their bodies were designed for precision, not resistance. A Varelian engineer could manipulate quantum-scale devices with astonishing delicacy, but few could drag their own body weight across a high-gravity incline. They had never needed to. Gravity on this planet is not an environmental variable, Axer murmured. It is a constant adversary. Yes, Sava said, and they have been resisting it for millions of years. The implications unfolded slowly. Human infants strengthened their neck muscles just to lift their heads. Toddlers fell repeatedly while learning to walk, bones thickening in response. Adolescents developed denser frames during growth spurts. Adults who worked physically demanding jobs grew stronger over time. Even their elderly retained surprising structural integrity compared to equivalent Varelian lifespan stages. Under chronic load, Threx said thoughtfully, their physiology improves. Yes. Under stress. Yes. Under damage? Sava brought up medical records. Bone fractures that healed thicker at the break. Muscle tears that rebuilt stronger. Cardiovascular systems that adapted to endurance training. They respond to resistance with reinforcement, she said. Axer watched a new feed from the planet below. Humans were gathering outside the hangar facility, not in anger, but in curiosity. Some held signs joking about gravity supremacy. Others simply wanted to see the aliens. Children sat on their parents' shoulders. A young girl jumped repeatedly, trying to see how high aliens jump. Axer felt something unfamiliar settle into his thoughts. Respect. Captain, Threx said carefully, we must reassess strategic projections. The word hung heavy in the chamber. Strategic. Until now, Earth had been cataloged as technologically promising, but physically unremarkable. Their spacefaring capacity was limited. Their propulsion systems inefficient. Their energy infrastructure fragmented. But biology was different. If conflict occurred in a high-gravity environment, Threx continued, our ground forces would be at severe disadvantage. Severe? Axer asked. Catastrophic, Sava answered softly. Silence spread across the chamber. On Let Horus, war had long ago become obsolete, resolved through technological superiority and environmental control. Physical combat was a relic of early history. On Earth, entire sports were built around control violence. Martial disciplines refined over centuries. Strength competitions celebrated globally, and every human alive trained against gravity simply by existing. We assumed their reliance on machinery indicated weakness, Threx said slowly. But it indicates efficiency, Axer replied. They build machines because they can, not because they must. He turned back toward the viewport. Somewhere down there, Sergeant Malik Okoye was likely enduring interviews, media frenzy, perhaps embarrassment. He had not lifted a captain to assert dominance. He had done it to make a point. You lifted me without hostility, Axer said quietly to himself. You demonstrated capability without aggression. That, more than the strength itself, unsettled him, because it meant humanity did not define power solely by force. They carried it casually. The Varelian homeworld appeared on a secondary display, Let Horus, luminous and serene. Soft gravity, floating terraces, weightless gardens. A civilization born in comfort. Earth rotated beside it, dense, storm-wrapped, heavy. A civilization born in resistance. We laughed, Threx said, the admission barely audible. Yes, Axer replied. Below them, a group of humans attempted to recreate the moment. A viral challenge had begun. Friends lifting friends. Children trying to lift parents. Athletes competing to see who could carry the most weight. The laughter on Earth was not mocking. It was joyful. Gravity was not their enemy. It was their training partner. Captain, Sava said carefully, there is more. She magnified seismic data from a recent earthquake. Buildings swayed. Some collapsed. Humans ran toward the danger. Carrying, digging, lifting rubble with bare hands where machines could not reach in time. Casualty projections lowered due to immediate manual rescue efforts. They do not retreat from pressure, Sava said. Axer watched firefighters hauling debris, muscles straining under concrete slabs. No exosuits, no gravitational dampeners. Just bone and muscle under 9.8 meters per second squared. They are forged by this world, he said. Threx's mantle dimmed to contemplative violet. We mistook density for limitation. Axer inclined his head, and heaviness for weakness. Outside, Earth continued its silent revolution. Gravity held oceans to crust, anchored mountains to mantle, pressed constantly on every human heart and lung. And instead of breaking beneath it, they had adapted. Under crushing skies, they had not become fragile. They had become formidable. Captain Axer requested a meeting without ceremony. No broadcast. No observers. No analysts whispering projections in his auditory field. Just a time, a location, and 2 humans. The hangar was quieter now. The frenzy had faded. Media crews were gone, replaced by a skeleton security team stationed at a respectful distance. Sunlight filtered to the high windows, casting long geometric shadows across the concrete floor. Gravity felt heavier today. Axer stood without activating the full compensation settings in his exosuit. He wanted to feel it, the subtle downward insistence, the constant pull. It pressed along his elongated frame, compressing joints not designed for this magnitude of force. His musculature engaged more aggressively than it ever had on Ledharis. Even standing still required effort, and humans called this normal. The doors opened. Dr. Elena Marquez entered first, posture composed, expression unreadable. Sergeant Malik Okoye followed a step behind, hands loosely clasped behind his back. Neither wore formal attire this time, just people. Axer inclined his head. Thank you for agreeing to a private audience. Elena folded her arms lightly. We figured this was the part where you either apologize or declare war. Malik nodded. 50-50 odds. Axer paused. We do not declare war lightly, he said. Especially not against a species we have misunderstood. The word lingered. Misunderstood. Elena's gaze sharpened. Go on. Axer adjusted his stance. Even that small shift required controlled effort. On Ledharis, he began, gravity is gentle. Physical strain is minimal. Our evolutionary path favored neural complexity, fine motor precision, energy efficiency. He lifted one elongated hand. We engineered our environment to reduce resistance. Our cities float because they can. Our structures are light because they need not be heavy. Malik glanced around the hangar. The thick steel beams, reinforced concrete, layered support columns. Yeah, he said. We didn't get that version. Axer allowed the faintest ripple of acknowledgement. No, you did not. He looked directly at Malik. When you lifted me, I experienced something I had never considered. Not humiliation. He paused deliberately. Perspective. Elena's expression shifted, just slightly. You assumed we were limited, she said. Yes. Because we build cranes? Because you appeared dense, Axer admitted. Compressed. Structurally inelegant. Malik barked a short laugh. Inelegant? That's a new one. Axer continued without defensiveness. We mistook adaptation for compensation. We believed your machinery existed because your biology was insufficient. Elena tilted her head. And now we understand that your machinery exists because your biology can afford efficiency. Silence settled between them. Outside the hangar doors, a transport truck rumbled past. Its weight vibrated faintly through the concrete floor. Axer felt it. Humans probably didn't even notice. Your world is relentless, he said. Every movement demands force. Every structure resists collapse through mass. Even your atmosphere presses more densely against your bodies than ours does against ours. He looked down at his own hands. You are born into resistance. Malik shifted his weight casually. You get used to it. That, Axer replied quietly, is precisely the point. He stepped forward. Without the exosuit's full compensation, the motion was slower, deliberate. On Ledharis, when systems fail, we rely on technological redundancy. When structures destabilize, automated fields compensate. When crisis strikes, we calculate. Elena's voice softened. And here, Axer met her eyes. Here, when systems fail, you lift. Images from orbital surveillance replayed in his mind. Earthquakes, floods, collapsing buildings, humans running toward danger instead of away from it. carrying strangers, digging with bare hands, muscles straining under impossible loads, because waiting for machinery would take too long. You reinforce through stress, Axel continued. Your bones thicken after fracture. Your muscles strengthen after damage. Even your psychology displays resilience curves correlated with adversity exposure. Malik blinked. Did he just compliment our trauma response? Very clinically, Elena murmured. Axel's crest dipped slightly. I am attempting to convey respect in your idiom. Malik smiled. You're doing all right. Axel straightened. On behalf of the Varelian Expeditionary Fleet, I formally retract our initial assessment of human biological limitation. He placed one hand over the center of his chest, a Varelian gesture of solemn acknowledgement. You are not fragile under gravity. He paused. You are forged by it. The words settled heavily in the space between them. Elena uncrossed her arms. We don't think about it much, she admitted. Gravity's just there. Yes, Axel said. That is what makes it extraordinary. He gestured lightly toward Malik. You lifted 180 kilograms without hostility, without dominance display, simply to demonstrate truth. Malik shrugged. You asked. And you did not harm me, Axel added. You could have. Malik's voice turned firm. That wasn't the point. Axel studied him carefully. Power restrained, strength controlled, a species capable of enormous force that chose, more often than not to use it destructively. That realization weighed more than gravity. Our strategic council has revised the projections, Axel said. Any ground engagement with humanity in a high-gravity environment would be unwise. Elena arched an eyebrow. That's diplomatic for catastrophic. Yes. The admission was simple, unembellished. Outside, a group of children laughed as they ran across the tarmac, their footsteps pounding rhythmically against the earth. One tripped, rolled, and popped back up without hesitation. Axel watched through the open hangar doors. They fall, he observed. Constantly, Malik confirmed. And rise again. Yeah. Axel considered the implications. On Let Horus, falls were rare. Injury prevention systems minimized impact. Surfaces were forgiving. Risk was engineered out wherever possible. On Earth, falling was part of growing. Struggle was part of strength. I would like, Axel said slowly, to request a cultural exchange. Elena folded her hands behind her back. In what sense? Physical training protocols, he replied. Controlled exposure to increase gravitational resistance. We wish to study the long-term adaptive effects. Malik's grin widened. You want a gym membership? Axel did not understand the phrase, but he sensed the tone. If that is your term for structure resistance conditioning, yes. Elena laughed softly. That can be arranged. Axel inclined his head once more. There is one final matter. Both humans waited. When we first measured your gravity, he said, my officers laughed. Malik's expression turned thoughtful. Yeah, we heard. Axel's crest lowered, not in shame, but in clarity. We will not make that mistake again. The statement was not dramatic. It did not need to be. Outside, Earth rotated steadily beneath a sky that never stopped pressing downward. Oceans held their shape because gravity demanded it. Mountains stood because rock was strong enough to resist collapse. Humans walked, carried, built, endured because they had never known anything lighter. Axel activated his exosuit's compensation field again. The pressure eased instantly. For a fleeting second, he almost missed it. Almost. He looked at Malik.